Hello and welcome back to another episode of Inside the Asperger Studios. Today I'm joined with Kara Nash. Welcome to the show, Kara.
Thank you for having me, Reed. I'm looking forward to getting to know you a little better and spending some time together.
Alrighty, so why don't we start off with, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
All right. I have been a registered nurse for about 22 years. I've been working in mental health for the last 20 and exclusively with people on the autism spectrum for the last 8. I got was late diagnosed autistic in my 30s, so I've had the diagnosis about 15 years now. And was really relieved to find something that made sense. I've
Mm-hmm.
been misdiagnosed a lot along the way. As you know, with autism, the issues are there in childhood. And
Yeah.
back when I was a kid in the 80s, little girls didn't have autism, so we didn't get labeled. I work. My business is called the Autistic Autism Consultant, and I do one-on-ones with folks. I do a lot of parent coaching for parents who have children who are newly diagnosed, and I do education. This Sunday, I have a presentation up at a girls' camp for about 150 counselors to teach them how to best connect to their campers on the spectrum without dismissing what feels natural. Ideally, we're going to cut down on the neurotypical brain asking these kids to mask. So that's kind of my crusade.
Now, let me ask you, before you got diagnosed, did you kind of feel like you were on the outside looking in?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and for the most part, that was fine. And probably until adolescence when it became more of a bullying sort
Mhm.
of thing. But I was very content to just read books and take apart electronics for the first 12 years of my life.
That
Um,
kind of reminds me, I always remember my parents telling me stories of when I was younger. Like, do you remember you used to take apart your father's tools just
yeah.
to see how they work? And I'm thinking, I don't remember this in my head. Why is this memory not there? You're telling me I did this, but I don't remember it.
It's interesting if you watch videos of some of the things. Like I remember taking apart the joystick for my Atari 2600. And I watched a video on YouTube of someone taking one apart, and I could remember it completely once I saw it, but I vaguely remembered it until I saw it reenacted, and then it was kind of like, oh, I wish I had one of those. I would do it again. It was so fun.
Now, are you the type of person who would read a book and if you put it down and then you try to go back to it later, it's like, I just remember vaguely reading this paragraph. I don't want to reread it, and then you put it down and you just totally like put it away and like forget about it. You just don't want to reread it all over again.
I'm pretty lucky, Reed. Up until I hit my 40s, I had a pretty eidetic memory. In school, I would pull up the pages in my head when
Oh
they were like
God.
essay questions, and because I didn't really understand a lot of times what was being asked of me. So I would just write out the entirety of the section of the book that were like in lit class that was about the question because I didn't know how to process the information, but it was in my head. So yeah, trying to working around a system that communicates differently. And I was pretty lucky in that most teachers gave me credit for that.
Now, do you have ADHD as well? Because I
I don't.
know people have said with autism you usually have ADHD.
No, I don't. I have comorbid depression and anxiety, but those are secondary symptoms to autism. Autism is
Mm.
my primary diagnosis.
Now, what about sensory issues? What do you have that bothers you that drives you nuts like most of us do?
Yeah, I don't think I'm all that special when it comes to sensory issues. It's loud noises. Right now we have cicadas. I don't
Oh
know if you know
God,
what
I
those
hate
are.
them. We
Yeah,
had them here and it's deafening.
it is. And it sounds slightly like an ambulance. And I worked as an ER nurse in behavioral health for about 3 years. So it triggers my nervous system. So I'm mostly, if I go outside just to walk the dog, even I'm in noise canceling headphones until these guys are gone. So that's been a little frustrating. Textures, food is definitely an issue, as with a lot of us. I'm not so photosensitive, which I'm grateful for. I can do all right in bright light without too much trouble, but mostly noise, and then visual chaos as well. Like if if someone has a, say, a pantry without doors on it and there's just food stuffed in there everywhere, I can't, like, I can't look at it without having, like, not a full-blown anxiety attack, but definitely a
Your
lot
mi-
of discomfort.
your mind is probably like, oh God, this person's a slob.
Or more just like, I'm thinking of the different ways I could sort and organize it. It's like, oh, is it by color? Is it by shape? Is it by food group? And then I perseverate on the possibilities. So yeah, definitely my preference is for people to have cabinets that close.
I mean, I know with me, cicadas drove me nuts when they're here, and they're loud.
So
And I
loud.
remember I went with my mom and my brother. My mom had a doctor's appointment in the suburbs, and we're in the city, so we don't
Hmm.
have much here.
Hmm.
We go into the suburb. Oh my God, there's like thousands of dead cicadas around the tree. You hear them all over the places, and it's just, please, can you
Yeah.
stop?
Yeah, it definitely and then I'm like I constantly like getting them out of my dog's mouth.
Ugh.
He tries to eat them, but they're still alive. So when I go to take
Yeah.
them out, I can feel their little wings flutter, and I don't like that sensation at all. So
And they're
they're
ugly.
done in about 2 weeks, and I'm looking forward to that.
And they're very ugly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting that you've had that near you as well.
Yeah, we used to have it when we were out of the city, when we were living like in the kind of like city-ish, but more urbanish. Now we're deeper into the city and we don't have it, but when you go out into the burbs where you got grass and tree and tons of trees, you get tons of them.
Yeah, I'm on top of the mountain, and we've got 2 acres, and we're the smallest plot of land, so it's real quiet up here. Well, it will be in about 2 weeks. They're gone.
Now, you're married. Is your
Mhm.
husband neurodivergent as well?
ADHD.
Oh, how does that work? Because I've talked with people where one is autism and one is ADHD, and it's like button heads. How do you
It
guys
can
work
be
it out?
challenging. It can be very challenging. There's definitely, as we've been together, a lot of hand signals, learning that it's okay to just walk away. Because I don't know if do this, like I hit my maximum amount of words for the day, and then I'm done talking.
Hmm.
Whereas with ADHD, it's a neurotype that talks a lot, and sometimes we'll talk through like, I'm going to pick up this pen and this piece of paper, and like they're keeping themselves focused, but they're doing it by talking out loud. And for me, it's like if you're talking out loud, you're talking to me.
Hmm.
Why are you why are you telling me what you're doing? So learning to like have grace and just to walk away when that's happening and to not carry it over into other conversations, or just knowing that's just as much part of that neurotype
Hmm.
as needing quiet is part of my neurotype. But it is challenging at times, definitely, Reed.
Is he the type that will leave cabinets open and you're just like, why? They
Yeah,
close. We know that.
yeah, it's I know, I've gotten a lot better. It's a little bit of exposure therapy as far as I used to not be able to go to sleep if there were dishes in the sink for the first 40 years of my life, probably. And now I can do that. It's like, okay, well, they'll either get done tomorrow or I'll do them myself. And that's okay. Because it's not worth being dysregulated or having an argument over. It's just
No,
dishes.
it's not.
So,
I mean, when you're in, especially when you're living together for that amount of time, you're
mhm.
gonna eventually find each other's little quirks and problems, and you find compromise. But the problem is, and you know this being like me, we're autistic. There is no compromise. There's one or the other,
Right.
and it's
There's a
like there is no
rigidity.
middle ground.
There's a rigidity. Absolutely agree. 100%. And like learning that, just trying to make in my head, like separating out is like, okay, there's two separate sets of rules. And one set's fair for one person and one set's fair for the other person. And then trying to hold that duality
Mhm.
makes it a little bit better because then there are rules. Uh, and I like rules. I don't know if you're a rule person, but they give me comfort. I like having consistency in rules.
Um, somewhat. I'm somewhat of a rule person. I mean, like, I need to put rules in retrospect because of us having no filter. I
Mhm.
have said things at family gatherings, things to my mother when I didn't mean to. And it's like, and especially when you're on Adderall, it adds up. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, she's your mother. You need to tactfully deal with it. You can't say things you say to your friends.
Right.
And I do, and occasionally I get to the point where my filter just, we slip. We're
Sure.
constantly monitoring, and people
Absolutely.
go, "Why did you say that?" And you're thinking, well, I'm constantly monitoring what I'm trying to say, and there's that 1% of chance that my focus stops and I just say what's coming right to my head.
Yeah. For me, if I'm in overwhelm, my filter is pretty much gone. So I kind of prep myself. Like if it's going to be a gathering of more than 3 or 4 people, I know my filter is likely to slip about an hour and a half in or so,
Hmm.
unless I have one drink, no more than that, but just one. So a lot of times I'll like arrive at to where there's an hour left in whatever the thing is. I don't know. Like I do an amazing amount of juggling my schedule to make sure I don't trigger my nervous system. And if I do trigger my nervous system, I will literally go outside and do deep breathing exercises. And sometimes I'll just go outside and wait in the car because it's better for me. Like I'm done.
I mean, one of the
Send a
greatest stories,
text. I'll be in the car
yeah,
when you're ready. Like,
one of the greatest stories I remember is we live next door to my brother, and it was my nephew's graduation party, and we're there, and the music is loud, and I was thinking, all right, music's too loud. I gotta get out. I don't say anything to my parents. I just go back to my room, lay down. An hour later, my dad comes in and goes, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay. It was just too loud." And my mind is sitting there humming like a speaker. And I
yeah.
can't deal with it. When my mind starts humming, then my body starts vibrating, and it's like my nervous system is at its max, and I can't think, I can't focus, I can't concentrate.
Right. And it's not our fault and there's nothing we can do about it. It's just neurology. And yeah, with people who know me well, there's a whole like slew of emoji codes kind of that if I send them, it means a certain thing. Like if I send the hand that says stop, it means I'm done. Don't talk to
Mhm.
me anymore. Or the hands like this, it means I'm out, like I left. So yeah, I like not using communication that's not words is much easier for me than using words. I don't know if that's true for you or not.
No, it's very true for me because a lot of times one thing can tell everything to somebody. Because a lot of times I'll stumble over my words trying to
Yeah,
think of what I want to say. And it's just like, okay, what's the easiest way I can tell them I'm done? I want to go home.
exactly.
It's like I was in Europe with my best friend for my 30th, and I'm exhausted. We get tired easily.
Yeah, very
And
much so.
I couldn't figure out why for the longest time I'd get tired or at 6 o'clock my body would shut down.
This
And I go to my friend, I go, I'm tired. I'm going back to the room. You can do what the hell you want. I'm
nice.
going back to my room to chill.
Good
Do
job.
what you want. I'm not going to stop you from having a good time. I go back to my room. I close my eyes. He comes back 2 hours later. I'm like, okay, you had a good time. I vegged out here. We're
Nice.
fine. We're not going to get on each other's nerves.
No, doesn't have to look the same. The autistic brain at rest. So if we're not doing anything, we're just sitting in a room and we take in 42% more information than a neurotypical brain.
Mm.
So we're processing a whole lot more. Um, and what it does is it depletes us energetically. Like again, that's not a mind over matter thing. That's not a if I tried harder thing. It's a physiological thing, like someone who's diabetic needing insulin. And I try really hard to explain that to especially my parents of like tweens and teens because they really think it's just their kids not trying hard enough. And sometimes they're teenagers, sometimes it is that, but for the most part, it's a mixture. Um, but yeah, our nervous systems they are wired completely different.
Yeah, I mean we're wired so differently from everybody else. I mean, one of the things people don't realize is they say, "Oh, you lack empathy." Wrong.
Mm-mm.
We are more empathetic than you think we are because our emotions are on the outside. That's why little tiny little things, TV shows that are sad hit us harder.
Sure.
We
That's
don't
interesting thing you brought up. Yeah. I can't watch TV before I go to bed now because everything is so intense and detailed and like I watch 80s cartoons and like old 80s sitcoms at night because anything else I have nightmares.
Wow.
Yeah.
I tell you though, the one thing about being neurodivergent is you have to have one friend who totally understands you, who isn't autistic. And I have one.
Mhm.
And there will be times where we'll be on the phone late at night and my mind shuts down and I just start going at him, saying shit from left field, insulting him. He'll go, Reed, you don't mean any of that. You're
No,
tired. Call it a night. Let's
what a
talk,
good
talk
guy.
tomorrow.
Yeah. It's wonderful to have a friend like that. I
I
wish
mean,
everyone did. So many people
yeah.
are so isolated that have, autism as we do. Suicide's the second leading cause of death for people on the spectrum, and so much of that's about isolation. So I think that's very wise to say that even regardless of their brain type, if you can just have one friend that gets you, it really makes a big difference.
I mean, let's talk a little bit about that. Why do you feel why those of us who are autistic have kind of fallen through the cracks? And
Well,
why has it led to isolation and suicide?
well, because until had I been diagnosed in 1975 when I was born, the the common wisdom of the day was that if you have a child that's autistic, you give up the rights and you give up custody to the state because the child's disorder will make the home unsafe. So in institutions, people with autism didn't live. The average life expectancy was 25, I think, back then. And we're only talking 50 years ago. That wasn't that long ago. So I think, like my generation, the Gen Alphas, we're the first generation to come of age and to even to need to make friends for ourselves as adults. So it's definitely nothing that the school system's teaching anybody how to, to socialize is not in the curriculum. And then, if you go to some sort of after education or it's harder to connect. I feel like there's so much tuning into devices now. Needs are
Mhm.
being met in other ways. We don't need to sit around a campfire and tell stories anymore. So our ability to connect is a little more, unless you have a church or something that you do that exposes you to other people. Doing new things is not on the
Mhm.
top of most autistic people I know's list of favorite things, right?
Right.
So it can be hard. We have a really great program here in Asheville that's called Arms Around ASD, and they have tons of opportunities for kids from as little as 4 to like they have a seniors group to just go and like they have a music listening hour where you just go and listen to music together. They have a movies where you can go and it's all ages. They have so many opportunities to connect, but those programs are few and far between and usually very expensive, unfortunately. So my hope is that we'll see more of that as the number of people identified as autistic goes up. I don't want to open a big can of worms, but that's a little bit of maybe Pollyanna or idealistic with the current administration, but I still want to hold on to the hope of that because letting go of hope doesn't help anything. So,
I mean, you gotta really wonder if how COVID affected a lot of those of us who are neurodivergent, because where you're going from being social and in school and hanging with your friends to being told you can't do any of that.
mhm.
Everything's got to be done online. You got to sit still. You have to have your camera on. You can't see your friends. It's like from one extreme to the other. It's like you're being forced to be isolated. It has to hurt the psyche.
The kids that I work with are definitely years behind. Autism is a social communication disorder.
Mhm.
Um, they're in both categories. I have 12-year-olds that are functioning like 8-year-olds. Not all of them, but the majority of them. And I definitely think that that's directly correlated to the pandemic, as you were saying.
Mhm. Now, what is your hyperfocus?
Well, I have a couple. Autism research is actually my main hyper focus, which works out well for work.
Mhm.
Um, and then, so like the neurobiology of autism specifically. And then Probably the evolution of like the entertainment industry from like
Mhm.
silent film to the modern day. So in that nerdy kind of like I can tell you who was the set director that was on this movie or that also was on this movie. Yeah, it's I don't know. I like being told stories. I don't know if you're this way, but I very much enjoy being able to be a passive participant in conversations. Like so movies and television are like a really nice way to connect without having to have input. And it also gives me social scripts.
Mhm.
Although with some of the older stuff, not really good social scripts. I can remember as a little kid watching Looney Tunes
Well,
and mimicking the what I heard in the episodes. And at one point, you know how Daffy Duck would say, "You're despicable." Like telling my mom that at like 5 or 6 years old, like you're despicable. And like it got laughs on the cartoon. So I didn't understand why she got so mad. Um, and I think that's when that obsession was kind of born because it was like, what is it with these television shows with the disconnect? Um, how about you? What's your special focus?
I have so many special focuses. I mean, autism's one of them.
Yeah.
And I mean, my podcast is like one of the biggest hyper focuses. I'm a big research buff.
Yeah.
Anything you need researched, my mom was like, "Oh, ask Reed. He'll research it for you and find you the best thing." And I
Nice.
remember the first time I did that, and my parents realized, "Oh my God, he's like a king in research." We were going to go to the zoo with my nephews and my brother and sister-in-law, and I wanted a camera that had a wide-angle zoom
Okay.
so I can get the whole entire family in the picture instead of just mi- so I literally researched and researched and researched and narrowed it down to one camera. And then
Feels good, doesn't it?
yeah, it feels good because I'm like, oh my God. And I did the same thing when I was up in England for my master's. Because I was going to go traveling after, and I wanted a camera that wasn't big and bulky that I
Hmm.
can just drop into my pocket and use it. And people are like, why don't you use your phone? And I'm like, well, here's the thing. If I use my phone, I'm going to kill my battery.
Right.
And then I have to worry about taking them off my phone and putting them on my computer. I have to buy a cable and yada, 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 and deal with the whole process of phone, this, blah, blah, blah. Do you want this? Where if I just use a camera, plug it into my computer, it automatically detects the camera. Okay, here are all your photos. Do you want to put them in this software?
Right. So you
And
were saving steps, basically.
yeah,
Yeah. More efficient. We are, in my experience, most of us on the spectrum are very into being efficient.
yes. And I researched it to death and I found the camera I wanted, I found the price I wanted, and I'm like, okay, done. Now, are you the type of person that when you go to buy something, you'll look at the negative comments, the negative reviews first, and like kind of like see if it sways you one way or another?
I'll look at whatever the minority of comments are. So if it's got, you know, 92% 4 stars, I'll look at the percentage that are 1 and 2 stars and see if the way that they're writing their review sounds like they're a reasonable person or not. If they're not, then and like the first thing I usually do is I'll go in and like ask ChatGPT. I'll put what features I want into ChatGPT, and then I'll have it generate what models there are to choose from. And then I'll also look at the Better Business Bureau to see if the company's had complaints filed against them.
Oh
Um,
wow, you really go deep.
yeah, I am very, you know the term monotropic?
Kind of, sort of. I've heard of
So it's a Win Lawson, who's an autism specialist in Australia, coined a term called monotropism, which is awesome because he's also on the spectrum, and we're
it.
starting to listen to other autistic voices, which is really cool. But it's the idea that we like people on the spectrum are monotropic. There's one thing we're focusing on, and we want to focus on it deeply, and we can't do anything else while we're focused. Whereas neurotypical people, the brain is polytropic. It can answer the phone and play with your pen at the same time, or take off your glasses and clean them while you're talking to another person. Um, so yeah, I'm very monotropic in that like if I have a research topic, I'm really not paying attention to anything else. And my body's kind of turned off, which is unfortunate because I don't have good interoception skills. So if I have to go to the bathroom, if I'm hungry, like I won't know. If until I'm done, I'm pretty much just researching. Or until I get a knock on the door that's like, "Do you need to eat?" Like I need to be reminded.
Well,
Because the answer is usually yes.
that's kind of like me, and I I have a really good friend in England who's kind of like that. Well, he's one of the biggest autism podcasters, YouTubers out there. And he got me onto this app, and I'm the same way where I need to be reminded, you got to shower in the morning or you're going to forget. You got to brush your teeth in the morning, you're going to forget. You're going to have to get dressed or you're going to walk around in your PJs all day.
Yeah, which can be
And
fun.
that means getting yelled at by my mom, get dressed, it's already 12 o'clock. And if I
Yeah,
don't have these reminders, because of my Adderall now, I can forget to eat.
sure. Absolutely. If I could
And
take a pill where I never had to eat again, I would do it in a second. I hate eating. Ugh. Like everything about it. It's just, I also have a lot of GI issues though, which comes a lot, oftentimes comes with autism to where I never,
yes, that
so
I
many things
didn't
make me
know.
sick.
That I didn't know until I've talked with a couple of people that deal with GI and autism, and they're like, you do know that GI issues and eating disorders are huge amongst those who are neurodivergent.
Yeah. That's what
I
my soapbox is to read is as a mental health nurse, I've worked in eating disorder clinics.
hmm
And the problem with sending someone on the spectrum to get treatment for their eating disorder is our eating disorders aren't based around body image.
no.
They're based around textures and like sensory
Yes.
issues.
Yes.
So oftentimes if you send someone to a normal eating disorder clinic, they'll come out with an extra eating disorder. They'll have ARFID with the restrictive eating, which they went in with, but they'll
hmm
also now have anorexia because they don't want, so it's very tricky. Like you really want to make sure that you're not getting typical care for typical eating disorders. It has to be ARFID specific. So,
I just had a woman on yesterday or the day before, who runs, who's a psychologist runs it with others a eating disorder clinic, and the majority of her patients are neurodivergent.
mhm.
And the big thing she works on is outfit.
Yeah,
And she's like, yeah, we do it differently. We don't force people to eat.
absolutely.
We work with them to like slowly bring it in, bring the foods back into their diet, and we don't force it. And we talked about that, and we said how you can't force an autistic to eat,
No.
because you force us to eat, we're just gonna starve. Because then it's like we don't want to be forced, because then we start to have negative feelings
Mhm.
towards that food.
Sure.
And then it's
It,
like we don't want to eat that anymore because now we are associating.
yeah, it's not a safe food anymore.
And we're saying a lot, and she was saying a lot of times it's the parents' education and how they go about it. It's you can't have your parents can't force the child to eat because that's going to drive them to having eating disorder, and they don't realize how the child's mind works. That your neurodivergent child is.
And that's something I work with a lot of parents around eating plans. Just having the food at the table, then having it on their plate for maybe a week. Like you don't have to eat it. Then maybe stopping there if it's too, like based on the kids. Some kids, some of my teenagers don't eat at the table with their families because the chewing noises that the other people at the table
I don't know.
make it to where they're in sensory overwhelm and they can't eat
hmm
because there's no blood going to their GI system because they're literally in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. They're usually in fight or flight, so they can't digest. So their digestive system shut down. Like they shouldn't be eating if they're like that, or they're going to get the regurg and those sorts of things. So I have two teenagers that eat separately from their families,
I
and
mean,
that's okay.
yeah, and she's like, one thing you've noticed that most kids will eat: chicken nuggets and fries,
Yeah, starch.
because it makes them happy.
Mhm. And a
And
lot of times you can get around the texture issues with putting things in a blender.
yep,
A good
that's what we talked about.
dietitian will be able to give you the nutrients that you need from fruits and vegetables with just fruits.
hmm
So, like, we don't have to push veggies on kids. We can do it in a way that, if they don't have blood sugar issues, in a way that just leans into the fruits. So yeah, finding ways around stuff that just doesn't work is kind of like it's like researching a product, like we were talking
Yeah.
about. It's that same sort of a puzzle to be figured out.
I mean, I think a majority of the problem is the parents. It's they don't do the research, they don't understand their child. They were taught how to do it one way, that's the way their parents taught them, and they
Mhm.
put it on their child. And now problem is you're neurotypical, your child's neurodivergent. You
Yeah.
can't use the same rules.
A lot of times too, I'll see the parent will have some untreated OCD or untreated ADHD, some sort of untreated neurodivergence or mental health issue that they're then projecting completely on the child.
Yeah.
So the child's being kind of scapegoated, and that's where the parent education that I do comes in as far as 100% of the time that makes it worse for everybody. And a lot of parents are working two, three jobs. Like the world is a hard place to have kids in at all, let alone neurodivergent kids that need so much extra. Like we need different things than what's available. Parents have to be creative in getting us what we need.
The
So,
most interesting one is I have a really good friend that I've been friends with for a while who's neurodivergent. He His father is old school Mexican, and he used to call him lazy because he couldn't do this, couldn't do that, until the father wound up with bone spurs in the back, and now he got put on disability, and it's like a thing switch, and he's like, "Oh my God, now I get it.
yeah.
I apologize for the way I've been to you."
That's a really, was your friend able to hear that?
Yeah, because
That's
his
healing.
father
I like
finally
that
told
story.
him, "I understand now how what you're going through."
That's wonderful. I wish that type of revelation, hopefully without the spurs for every parent and child, adult child even.
Now, why do you feel that the world misunderstands us? I mean, why are they afraid of no of us, number one? Why are jobs afraid to hire us, number two?
Well, I think that in general, it's human to be afraid of things we don't understand. And as we were talking about with when when you don't have much of a filter, and you feel like being efficient is being honest, it can sometimes damage people's egos.
Hmm.
Um, and I've gotten fired for that on multiple occasions, like not really understanding that, pointing out in a meeting that the data that my boss is using is 4 years old and is being presented as though it's this year's numbers. Like I wasn't the only one who noticed that. I was just the only one who didn't know to keep my mouth shut,
Hmm.
you know? So yeah, like that made that very uncomfortable for him. I called him out in front of the whole department, but I wasn't doing that on purpose. It was inefficient use of our time. Like we didn't need to be looking at that stuff. We'd already seen it on the presentation 3 years earlier. So yeah, I think that's part of it. I think people like to tell little half truths to themselves about life being better than it is, maybe, or different than it is. That thing of only posting the positive stuff on social media. Whereas for me, like life's not always all good. And like if you're just showing the good parts, you're not really showing who you are. Uh I don't know. Like it's
I
hard to
mean,
connect if you're only letting part of your personality be present. And I don't know that most people are not very comfortable with that.
it kind of reminds me of a story. One of my guests told me a while back about her kids who are neurodivergent, how one day they were at camp and somebody came up to the sister and says, "I don't know, you don't act like you are autistic." And you And the sister was a little offended, and then the brother came up to him and he goes, the problem is they don't see the other side.
Right.
We're on medicine to help us think better, and to be corrected and everything else. They don't see the other side of the coin. They don't
Sure.
see what we go through on a daily basis when we're home.
Right.
And that's why it's called an invisible disability, is people don't see it. It's not like Downs or
Being a wheelchair user.
OCD. Yeah.
Yeah, that drives me nuts. Like I travel, but I also have severe overwhelm in airport. It's TSA is very upsetting for me.
Mhm.
Flying's fine. The airport is difficult. But I
Yes.
say that to say I pre-board because I can.
Yeah, I have that
Every
too.
time somebody's like, "Do you need a wheelchair?" And it's like, "No." And then like, "Well, this is the line for disabilities." And it's like, "Yeah." And I end up having this very uncomfortable conversation that is none of anyone's business, quite honestly. And
What disability I have. Yeah.
yeah, and it's no offense to you, but old white men are the worst. Like they're just like, oh, like why are you in this line? And they're like overtly like good people. They'll have like they've served in the military or have their Marine Corps hat on or whatever. And like once you talk to them a minute, they're fine about it, but they're so defensive at first. It's like you earned a right to pre-board with your age because you were hurt. I'm pre-boarding from something that's been with me since I was an infant. And it's just, it's a level of conversation you can't have in an allowed airport, but I wish I could have it like with, in some large platform where I could be explained that it's really uncomfortable to like have someone want you to justify your needs. Have you
Yeah.
been in that situation before, Reed?
Oh God. Once in my life, kind of, sort of. I was just going away to school to England, and everything was fine leading up to it. I was excited. We get to the airport, we get to the desk, and the a-hole behind the desk, because it's 9/11, goes to us. You can only have one parent.
What?
And at that point, my mind just went, and I'm like, but I'm autistic. And my mom's like, he's autistic. Why can't we go? And he's like, it's the rules. And it's like, my mom's like, yeah, but this is his first time flying alone
Good.
to out of country. And she's like, we're sorry, we're sorry. My mom's like, can we talk to your boss?
Good.
And he's like, yeah, he's gonna say the same thing. He comes along, he's like, I'm sorry, it's just due to 9/11 and new regulations. And all of a sudden, I go into meltdown.
Sure.
I don't
It's
know
not the
what happened. I
plan.
don't know what's going on. I
Yeah,
break down into tears.
of
I'm
course.
crying my heart out, and I'm like, my mom understands what's going on. My father, on the other hand, goes, "You're making a fool of yourself."
Oh, that's
And
hard.
I'm thinking, that's not the right thing to tell me right now, Dad.
Right. If you had
And
a choice, you
finally,
would choose differently. That's not the easy choice you're
no,
making.
I know my dad loves me. He just doesn't understand what's happening. They knew I was autistic. And finally, the man says to us, there is a glass wall that divides up with a security guard on the other side with a chair. He can go there and watch you board. My dad goes, your mother can go with you.
Okay.
So my dad goes to the other side, sits down. I'm walking with my mom to the gate. She calls my dad on his cell phone. She's like, I'm gonna go into the store and get him a paper and some gum.
Yeah.
And on the phone, he's like, would you stop it? You're making yourself look like a fool. And I'm like, and I didn't say a word. I'm just
What
nodding my
could you say?
head. I'm like, I can't say anything because my mind shut down at that point.
And it's not
And
making it better.
no. And my mom comes out. She she puts the paper and the candy by the revolving door, spins it around. My dad goes to pick it up. He falls. And a smile comes across my face for a split second. I'm
That's
like,
fair.
I'm like, I'm
That's
like,
fair.
I'm like,
You earned
God
that
help me
smile.
now. And then the minute the gate call comes up, it's like a light switch flips and I go back to normal. Get into my plane, board, get to my seat, take a picture of myself, send it to my dad. And I'm talkative. I'm talking to everyone around me,
Yeah,
finding out there are kids that are going to the same school I'm going to.
very cool.
And I'm relaxed. Get to school, and then I'm fine. But I find out that I have anticipatory anxiety.
Yeah.
Anytime I have to go somewhere new or fly somewhere, I get crazy anxiety to where my heart beats, I go numb,
Yeah.
I go into shock. And the first time this happened to me in school wasn't when I was going somewhere, it was when I had to give a live presentation
Mhm.
for my dissertation.
Mhm.
And my hands went cold. My body went clammy. I get up, give my presentation, and I get back to my seat, and my body goes back to normal.
So you have the ability to reset pretty quickly, it sounds like.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
body resets quickly, thank God.
Yeah, that's definitely a really good thing to have. Yeah, it sounds like you have the ability to socially connect as well, as far as like talking to folks on the plane and
Yeah,
wanting to get yourself out of that place.
I am very ambivert because I can go between introverted and extroverted, and I like to socialize, but I also like my quiet time.
Mhm.
And I like to call myself a rare breed of autism because I can blend in with the neurotypicals
Yeah.
very easily without them knowing I'm autistic.
Yeah, I feel like when I was younger, probably until the last 5 years, I was very good at that, but it also gave me a lot of mental health issues trying to blend in, I was constantly hypervigilant, and I had a heart attack at 24.
Oh God.
My nervous system can't run that fast. It can't run that hard. I was pushing it that hard, but I've had these healthcare crises that have come up right every 4 to 5 years to tell me, stop, slow down. You're not going to slow down. We're going to put you on your back for about 4 or 5 months. And finally, after we're pattern people, right? We like
Yeah,
to recognize
we
patterns.
love patterns. We see
Yeah.
patterns in life.
So after the fourth time that happened, it was like, all right, I gotta figure out a way to mask less and to just, I'm not for everyone. Like everyone's not gonna like me, and that needs to be okay. I can't be constantly finding smaller words and like rephrasing things in my head, and it's just exhausting. I'm sure you know. Like
Oh God, it's
it takes so
crazy
much out of you.
exhausting. It took me forever to realize not everyone can like me.
Yeah, me too.
I rem I remember when I left college, every one of the people that was my friends stopped talking to me.
Yeah,
And the one friend that I went that stayed, the few that stayed my friend, one of them that I'm real close to, I'm like, why is everybody no longer talking to me or disappearing, unfriending me? And she's like, people move on with their life. You just
yeah,
gotta realize that. I'm like, yeah, but to unfriend me without a word, saying,
yeah,
I'm sorry, Reed, my life has moved on. I don't want to keep tabs of all my college friends. It's kind of hard.
yeah.
Or when
I
people just
feel like
unfriend you
that's
on Facebook for no reason, it's like, why? What did I do to you?
or just don't follow my feed. You don't have to actually unfriend me. Like it's the same thing. You won't see anything from me. You could spare my
Yeah.
feelings.
Yeah, spare my
Actually,
feelings.
yeah, I actually had in college a group of people that I hung out with, and they elected a spokesperson to break up with me.
What?
Yeah, so there was a spokesperson, was one of the women in the group. We made films and music and stuff like that, and she pulled me aside and was like, "Well, we all have decided that we don't want to be friends with you anymore, but I'm the one who's going to come tell you. We still want you to manage our band, but we don't want to be your friend
At
anymore."
that point, I was like, screw you and your band. You're not even my friends. Why should I manage it?
Oh, yeah, I didn't really know what to do with it. It just made me cry. It was so confusing because I never see it coming is the thing.
None of us do.
It just like I can kind of look back on like that's happened over and over again in my life. And I appreciate that. I'd rather someone tell me than disappear, you know? But yeah, it's really hard to look back and to be like, what happened? And then suddenly you see it and you're like, oh, well, I can't do anything about that now. You could
I
have
mean,
told me at any point along the way.
that is one of my biggest hiccups and hangups and pet peeves, especially being autistic when it comes to workplaces. It's like when somebody reports you to your boss and your boss comes to you a week later and it's like, hey, you did this, this, and this to this person. Why didn't you tell me then? I could correct
Absolutely.
it.
Right. And I'm not going to even be mad because you're just trying to make the system more efficient. I don't think it's about me. It's about something bigger than I am. Like, just tell me. It's okay. But
No,
people
I'm
are
like,
afraid to communicate. That's what we were talking about earlier. They're afraid to communicate their honest feelings because they're
yeah.
afraid of having a confrontation. Whereas the autistic brain doesn't really see confrontation the same way.
No, that's funny you mentioned that because as my supervisor the second pulls me aside and tells me, you're standing too close to your volunteers. They came to me. I'm like, why didn't they tell me that in my face? And she's like, there are people don't like confrontation. I'm thinking, really? What confrontation? You don't want me standing too close to you? You tell me and then I'll correct it.
Right. Or you make it a joke. Hey, how about you don't stand up my nose? Like there are ways you could do it without it being confrontational that like I feel like people are like to some degree a little lazy there.
No,
Um,
but
there
one
are
of
ways to
the
communicate without it being confrontational, even things that are really hard.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that was really offensive to me was the second time I got called out, they put me on leave for like a month before I
Mhm.
can volunteer again. I come back and I'm fine, 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 and then I get called out again and they sit me down and I'm like, they're like, I thought that giving you a month you'd change. And I'm thinking, I'm autistic. We don't change like you people.
Right.
We can't change who we are. You got to understand that. And I literally sent her an email with how to work with people who are autistic. And I
Nice.
guarantee you she deleted it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's unfortunate, but I do think that that is the trend. Um, I got fired from one job because we switched departments and I'd had a great boss who knew how to tell me like, this is stupid, Kara, just do it 20%. Or like, I don't want you to do this either. I know it's dumb, but like the higher ups want it done. Like she was
Mhm.
great. I'd do anything for her. I didn't mind doing stupid shit at all, pardon me, when she asked. Because
Well, that's good.
I'm very loyal. But then I
Well,
got
that's it.
switched in departments and I had a new boss and I got called in, and I thought I'd been working one person for there were usually two people in my department, and it had just been me for like 6 months. I thought she was gonna tell me we were getting a new person, like a second person, and she was firing me. And the reason she said is you do everything the same way every time. I was like, yeah, I'm autistic. Unless you tell me to do it a different way, I will do everything the same time every time.
I mean, that's exactly how I was when I was at my first volunteer position. I go to my boss, like my supervisor, like maybe the third or maybe the second week in, I'm like, can I talk to you? And she's like, sure. I'm like, I want you to let you know I'm autistic. And she's like, oh my God, so am I, and so are my kids.
Perfect.
And then she was so sweet. She pulled me aside one day and we're talking in her cubicle and she was like, would you like me to teach you life skills, social skills while we're working? I'm like, yes, please. And she was great. We had something we called pocket science where I was working at the planetarium. I would walk around with a meteorite in my hand, and she would sit off to the side and watch me. And then at the end of the day, I would go down to her cubicle in the offices, and she's like, "Okay, let's go over what you did today, and I'll tell you what you did wrong and how you can correct it and make it better the next time you do it."
That's cool.
That was great. And then two volunteers complained to me. One of them accused me of sexual harassment when all I did was give her a little hug and congratulate her on the promotion.
Mhm.
And then the other one didn't like me joking around. He says I called him a job stealer. And
Mm,
because of that, I got moved to a different job where I was miserable. All I was doing was going through photos and labeling the emotions of the people in the room.
mm.
And in my head, I kept saying, a chimp can do this job.
Yeah,
And I must have self-sabotaged myself somewhere along the line because I get a call saying, would you please come in? I'm like, this is my day off. If you want me to come in, I'll have to do it on on the day I'm working. She's like, no, I'm sorry, you got to do it. I'm like, I'll tell you what, you call me if you want to talk to me on my day off. And she's like, okay. And she's like, well, we're gonna have to fire you. I'm like, well, I'll tell you what, before you can even fire me, I quit. How's that? And I hung up on her
yeah.
because I'm not gonna let you treat me like crap.
It's a very only 14% of autistic adults are employed full time.
Yeah.
And
And
it's not that we're not smart. It's not that we're not committed. It's not that we're lazy. It's that the systems of communication that
oh,
are typical in a workplace are not, they don't work for us.
that's
And that's not,
why
it's not a
I'm
fault thing. You didn't do
no,
anything wrong, Reed. Like that's
no.
just, you know,
And that's why I like there are companies out there now that are starting to have like Microsoft who literally have programs for autistics.
yeah,
But the thing is, it's straight autistics. It's not autistics with ADHD
sure.
or this and that. It's straight autism where you can sit down and program because you're amazing at math.
Absolutely.
I have autism, ADHD, a little bit of OCD, and I'm dyslexic. I suck at everything.
Well, not at people.
Not at people. No, I'm a great people person. I love talking.
Yeah.
But anything else, I can't do. Math, I suck at. So I'll never be able to make it in those programs.
That's interesting. I think that there's so many, you're right, there's so many professions that do work for people on the spectrum that are math driven, like accounting, computer programming.
Hmm.
It is harder to find, and I think in general, like the US, we devalue the arts, we devalue history, we devalue like so many of my folks with master's degrees have degrees in like library science or ancient Roman history or like these very, very specific, overtly special interests where they're really, unless they're going to be a college professor, there's not a job.
Yeah.
Um, and what do you, it's hard because then you have this huge sense of disappointment after college or after
Hmm.
your master's program or after your PhD program. And I just feel like that we should be getting this information out somehow before people are in debt for going to school. Um,
I
You're
mean,
not just because you have or you're really good at something and you have a degree in it doesn't mean you're going to be able to work in that field.
no, I mean, I found that the hard way. I mean, I had a degree in advanced computer science, computational intelligence. Good luck finding a job in it. There's not many jobs like that out there. And no
Yeah.
one told me this. And then no one told me I didn't have to follow my bachelor's. I could have gone into autism studies, which would have been better, more beneficial for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the wisdom that like we can give the younger kids coming up. I have one client where it's like, get your GED. You're not learning anything. Like your IQ's in the 140s. It is dumb for you to be in high school. Like
Mm.
all you're getting is mental illness from high school. Get your GED and go to college. Like you need to be done with this because it's you're getting bullied. You're being told things that aren't true. You're feeling like crap about yourself. Like you're not performing because the material is boring you. So it's making you look like you're dumb, even though you're doing really well, like on SATs and things like that. Like 4 years of that is a lot. Like just I don't know. It's we have this paradigm of education that needs to shift.
I mean,
It's not fair to any of the kids, let alone the ones on the spectrum that struggle more.
yeah, I mean, that's why when I tell people, especially in my book, I talked about college, and I'm like, if you're gonna go to college, go to a community school first. Get your GEDs done. Get your GEDs done.
Mhm.
This way you don't have to wade through all this boring stuff and you
Right.
won't fall asleep and you can take what you love and
Absolutely.
focus on that.
Right.
Because I
Get your
know,
welding certificate. Get your
yeah,
like something where you can have a job where you don't have to, it's not so dependent on social interactions. And the trades are wonderful for that. And you get to make stuff. How cool is that?
mhm. I mean the problem is, like you said, I had a friend who's autistic. He wanted to go into programming, and then he realized he had to learn advanced math.
Mhm.
He's good with math, basic math, but when you get up to the advanced, it's hard. And he had
Yeah.
to drop out because he couldn't do it.
And I bet that that was hard for him emotionally.
Yeah, it
Like giving
was.
up on a dream's brutal.
No, yeah, because it's something he loved and he wanted to do. He loves computer games and he wanted to become a programmer. I'm like, well, I mean, it's the thing we got to deal with is programming involves a certain level of math.
And I think it's good that we have opportunities to discuss these things because the
Mhm.
kids are consuming media,
Oh yeah.
right? To have an adult say it's okay to get your GED. You don't need to put up with abuse is very
I mean,
powerful. I wish someone had told me that. I would
that
have autism still, but I don't know if I would have so much anxiety or depression.
I mean that's the other thing. I mean we need to focus on is these teachers in high school and college and grammar school need to be educated in the autism.
Absolutely.
I mean,
One
I
in
taught
29 now. Between the kids between the ages of 4 and 18, 1 in 29 of them has an autism diagnosis.
well,
So
and
that's at
that
least one in every class.
yep.
So it's time to start doing some globalized education in America, at least, about I 100% agree with you and have offered to do things for free at various schools that do a particularly bad job. So
Mhm.
yeah, I wish I have some schools that have sought me out, that were like, we want somebody who's autistic to come talk to us about autism. And I love that. It's so hopeful that they're seeing it, but they've all been private schools. None of them have been public. So,
Public, yeah, public, you'll never get it.
yeah.
I mean, the problem is, I mean, the problem is our school system is, and you'll agree on this, is screwed. They don't know how to deal with autism.
Well, yeah,
It's the
we're
old
asking the teachers
school.
to be social workers and psychologists as well. And we don't train them in that.
No, I mean, we should follow our teacher. The way the teachers are taught should be taught the way they are in Australia. In
Mm,
Australia, they say if you're going to be a teacher in college or even grammar or high school,
hmm
you have to take a mandatory class in autism studies.
Sure.
So you'll understand how these kids' minds think.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line is our teachers are all taught the old school ways.
Yeah.
And I was talking with someone about that, how in the old days, the teachers were comfortable with you're able to hit a kid. Now you can't hit the kid. So now you got to think of another way to make these kids' lives miserable because you don't understand them.
Teachers are still saying kids are having behaviors. Kids aren't having behaviors. They're communicating that the environment does not suit their needs
Yeah.
physiologically. That's not a behavior. Stop calling it a behavior. They don't have a choice. If they if they can make a better choice than screaming, they can make a better choice. It's not a behavior, and that drives me nuts. I talk to parents about this all the time. Sometimes you're not you wouldn't you don't I don't choose to have meltdowns. Do you choose to have a meltdown?
No,
No.
meltdowns happen because it happened. Because the best way I've explained this to many people, and I think even wrote about it in my book. The best analogy of a meltdown: think of
Yeah.
your computer having a blue screen.
Yeah.
Too much incoming data going into it, and it can't process it fast enough, and it reboots. It's the same thing with your brain. You get too much. Uh, a meltdown is basically too much stimulation coming in at you, and you can't get away from it.
Yeah.
Your
My
mind
kid.
reboots.
Mhm.
You start crying. That's your reset.
Yep. Yeah, like usually will explain it like a picture an empty glass and like then I'll have a picture of water and the water is all the stimulation. At some point the glass is going to start overflowing and then you
Mhm.
can't even drink the water. Like it's not an option. It's just what gravity is doing with those elements and that's just what the
Mhm.
neurology is doing.
I
So
mean,
I'm glad that you understand that and that that's what you're sharing with people out through your work.
I explained a meltdown or overstimulation in the best way. Somebody actually explained it the best way possible. And they said, imagine sending your kid off to school. They're late for school. You have them take a shower really quick. They come out, they're still wet. You throw on their clothes
Mhm.
backwards, so now they're itchy and they're wet. They
Yeah.
get on the bus. Now it's loud
Yeah.
with all this talking all over them. You throw them into school where it's now they're itchy, loud. No, it's itchy, loud, wet,
And
and
smelling.
all this talking all over and noise and everything. They come home, their mind is literally a time bomb waiting to go off. And that's what it is like to be overstimulated.
Yeah.
You can't get away from the stimulation. Your mind can't handle it.
I probably get a lot of pushback on this, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't think any autistic child should be in school a full day. It's too long.
It is too
Like
long.
if we as adults can't be in a regular employment full time 40 hours a week without and control our nervous systems, a child who only has use of like 5-year-olds only understand 25% of what you're saying. That's when we put them in school and we want them to sit for like 6 to 8
8 hours
hours. That's not reasonable.
with a what? A 15-minute break for lunch?
Maybe. I mean, they're taking out recess, they're taking out art, they're taking out anything that would like be a down regulating thing for their brains.
I know.
So yeah, like
You could,
overhauling, some overhauling needs to happen.
yeah, a lot of overhauling needs to happen. There needs to be, I think, there needs to be someone who goes around to all these schools, tries to figure out how many students are autistic, and then say, you need a sensory room for these kids. Otherwise, they're going to be overstimulated to the point where they can't focus on the material you're trying to teach them.
Absolutely. I can remember, yeah, I can remember in high school going home, like I would record my classes after third period on a little mini tape recorder
Yeah.
because I couldn't pay attention. Like by fifth period, I was just thinking, don't scream. Just don't scream out loud. So I would go home and I would listen to the class, and then I would I would be up till like 1 in the morning because I hadn't been able to process any of the school day, the last half of the school day. So I had to teach myself. That's not sustainable.
No, I mean,
That makes for a neurotic little person. We don't need to do that to our kids.
I remember one of my sister-in-law's cousins told me she used to like teach at a school, well, aide at a school, and she's like, there were these two kids. One of the was a girl who would run around in circles, and the teacher would scream and yell. And she's like, you can't yell at them. You gotta let them run around. They probably have ADHD and their mind is overactive.
Right.
Let them get that out.
They're trying to self-soothe. Let them
It's a
self-soothe.
stimulation.
Yeah.
What do you do to stimulate?
Um, I definitely am a fidgeter.
Yeah, I love fidgeting.
Yeah, different ones are different levels of good depending on what it. I don't like things that make noise, but other than that, I listen to music. I like to pick apart the different layers. I did some sound engineering in college, so that's fun for me. Um, I'll get echolalic if I'm close to having a meltdown. I definitely will repeat back what people are saying. That's one of my tells that I need to break if I'm repeating things. Um, yeah, I also have a stim that I wish I didn't have. I've had it since I was a kid, where I'll take my tongue and I'll rapidly go back and forth against my front teeth on the bottom until it bleeds.
Ouch.
Which, yeah, that's usually when that's really bad, I can tell my medicine's not right. It's time to go to the doctor. But yeah, if you can get the stims like to be a physical stim, it's so much better than if it's an internalized,
Mhm.
biting the sides of your cheeks. I don't know if you ever did that. I used to do that all the time in high
I
school.
used to do that every so often. I'll used to chew pen caps until you get ink in your mouth.
Yeah, yeah, I remember
Um,
that.
I bite my nails, pick my nails.
And the skin around the sides.
Yeah. And I'll get yelled at by my mother. Don't do it, you're gonna ruin your nails.
Yeah, and they're right. I did, but also like in the grand scheme of things, it's fine.
Yeah.
If ruining my nails is the
Um,
worst thing that happens.
I'll squeeze my feet and my toes really tight and like let go, like let all this tension go.
Do you do
Rub my
T-Rex
hands
hands?
together.
Do you know that one?
No, I'll do
But
this.
T-Rex hands is like where kids start to get overstimulated. More so with kids than adults. So they'll start moving like this with their arms like this, like a little T-Rex, because they start to be protective of their core because they're starting to dysregulate. That's a good one to know about. But yeah, I'm always looking and watching to see because stims create dopamine.
Hmm.
Dopamine, it's one of the issues the autistic brain has. There's not enough dopamine. So a child stimming is a child trying to or an adult stimming is an adult trying to regulate themselves. And the idea that it needs to be stopped, we got to reprogram. We got to reprogram that because it serves no one.
I mean, parents don't realize when we stim that we're doing something to help us. They can't
Exactly.
because I know there are times my mother will look at me and I'll be stimming and she'll go, "Don't do that." And I'm thinking to myself, "You can't tell me not to do that." Because I say it to myself because if I say it to her, it'll almost come out. I'm t talking back to her, and I don't want it.
Well, and also if for me, if I'm stimming, I'm anxious about something.
Yeah,
So I'm not in my best self to like respond to another human. It's not the time to be like annoying me or I'm going to overreact. Probably. So like I don't know, like a lot of times if I'm stimming, like being by myself is the best because then I
yeah.
can just stim and be happy.
Like sitting in a dark room, it's like it's quieting your mind. I
Yep.
remember when I was in school for my master's, it was exam time, and I was overstimulated. and burnt out because of everything going on. I needed to quiet my mind. So we had this in-ground labyrinth.
Oh, that's cool.
And I went to the center of it, laid down, quieted my head, and tried to identify every sound I heard.
Yeah.
And at that point, once I was able to identify people walking, birds, the sound of the wind, I knew my mind was quiet enough that I can get up and try to focus on my work.
Nice. And finding those things that work. They don't have to make sense to anyone but you, you know?
Yeah.
And the idea that we don't have to justify them. Just it's kind of like that idea that not everybody's going to like us. Not everybody's going to understand it, and that's okay. They just need to leave
Yeah.
us alone while we're doing
I mean,
it.
that's one of the biggest points is not everyone's gonna like us. We are different than everyone else. It takes a certain kind of friend to say, hey, I get you, I understand you, and I'm willing to deal with your little idiosyncrasies.
Yeah,
Which
because we all have neurotypical people have idiosyncrasies too, right, Reed? Like the idea that like not telling the truth is the go-to in society seems weird to me. Like that, I don't know that I feel like we're making accommodations for them in that particular arena. Like, you know, if I say I like your shirt, I genuinely like your shirt. It's not like, hey, not everybody could pull off that shirt, which is like, are you complimenting me or insulting me? I don't even know what's happening. So yeah, it's good to find people who are willing to see past the differences to who you are and to want to connect to that you want to connect with as well.
and finally, where can people find out more about you?
Thank you for asking.
Not a
Um,
problem.
if you go to your www.theautisticautismconsultant.com, I'm there. I'm at the Autistic Autism Consultant on YouTube and have probably a couple hundred videos up there. And yeah, if you can't go through my website, shoot me an email. I'm happy to do shorts or long format videos on anything people have questions about. And I've gotten some really good questions that have really helped put things in the forefront. So reach out and say hi.
And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Reed Miles. That was Kara Nash, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you, Kara.
Thank you very much. It was nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.